obviously there was the veto this morning at the Security Council. I know Ambassador Thomas Greenfield spoke about this at length, but in terms of U.S. engagement with the region, how do you think this affects it? I mean, do you think that a number of Arab states in particular have been calling for a ceasefire? How does this take U.S. diplomacy?
So look, when it comes to an immediate ceasefire, this has been a place where we've had a disagreement with a number of countries in the region for some time now. I don't think that's anything that's new, but that has not stopped us from being able to engage constructively about how to bring this conflict to an end, and not just an end, but a durable end in a way that ensures that the violence that we saw on October 7th and the death and destruction that has plagued this region for so long is not continued, and that we can finally find a durable peace agreement. And so despite our differences of opinion about this UN resolution, we continue to engage with Arab countries about finding a way forward and working on some of the issues that we know we will have to deal with when it comes to establishing long-term peace and security in the region. Let me make sure Sean's done before I go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just on Gaza, the mention of temporary ceasefire, the word ceasefire in the UN resolution, is this change in wording comes after President Biden used this last week?
Temporarily, it obviously does. The president made that point last week, and now you've seen the draft resolution that we're working on. But this has been a matter that we have been pursuing for some time, trying to get a temporary ceasefire in exchange for a release of hostages, and something we think is critical to try to achieve and we'll continue to focus on.
Right. Do you think the administration has obviously been under pressure domestically on this and internationally as well? Do you think that the change in president's wording, but the fact that now it's in draft resolution, has anything to do with those pressures that it's facing domestically?
No, I think it has to do with how we are responding to the situation on the ground and the situation in the region. We are trying to achieve a temporary ceasefire, or you can call it a pause, you can call it whichever name you prefer, to secure the release of hostages. We worked on achieving a humanitarian pause back last year. We're successful in doing it. It didn't go as long as we wanted it to. We got some hostages out. We didn't get all of them out. We are back now trying to get a longer pause, a longer temporary ceasefire, and secure the release not just of some of the hostages, but all of the hostages. And I would say we have made quite clear that we want to see not just a temporary ceasefire, but ultimately an enduring end to the hostilities, and one that ensures that Palestinian civilians are protected, that we get humanitarian assistance to them, and that ultimately the attacks of October 7th cannot be repeated. And that's one of the reasons why you've seen us oppose the resolutions at the UN, not just today, but in the past, because we think just an unconditional ceasefire only benefits Hamas. Hamas is not going to abide by a full temporary ceasefire. They're going to continue to hold hostages. They're going to continue to launch attacks against Israel. They may not do it for a week or so, but they have not forsworn their aims to destroy the state of Israel. And so we've opposed that policy, and we think it's not one that's effective. We think a negotiated agreement that would get a temporary pause, a temporary ceasefire, is ultimately not just the way to release the hostages and alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people, but to give us a pathway to a more enduring end to hostilities.
Right. And you'd like to achieve that pause before Ramadan starts?
We would like to achieve that pause yesterday.
Right.
We would like to achieve it today or tomorrow. We want to achieve it as soon as possible.
Sure, but how concerned are you that the fighting will continue into Ramadan? Are you doing anything specific about that?
I don't want to get ahead of the situation because we are right now in conversations and in negotiations to try to achieve a humanitarian pause. We are still over 2 weeks away from Ramadan. We would like to get that humanitarian pause before Ramadan begins. We'd like to get it before the end of the week, as I said. We'd like to get it as soon as possible. So that's what we're going to continue to try to do. At the same time, we have made clear that Israel should not launch a full military campaign in Rafah unless it has a humanitarian plan that is both credible and realistic, and one that they can execute.
Have you seen any indications of that humanitarian plan, and what is the United States prepared to do if they go ahead anyway?
One has not been presented to us yet. I've seen reports that one is being developed and will be presented to the government of Israel this week. I will let them speak, of course, to that, but one has not been presented to the United States, so I, of course, can't speak to it, and I wouldn't want to deal with any kind of hypothetical situation down the road.